I am 27 years old, and I am sitting in my first apartment that I can truly call my own. The walls are bare, the furniture is secondhand, but for the first time in my life I feel free. My phone keeps buzzing with messages from my family. They say I am selfish cruel for leaving them behind. They say I abandoned them when they needed me most, but they do not know what I witnessed. They do not know how long I stayed silent, watching the lies unfold right in front of me. Before I share this story with you, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button if you have ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to protect you. Subscribe to hear more real stories about family drama and standing up for yourself. And buckle up, because what I am about to tell you will show you exactly why sometimes walking away is the only option left. Growing up in my family felt like living in a house where the rules constantly shifted, but one thing never changed. My sister Madison was the golden child, and I was the responsible one who cleaned up after her messes. Madison is 3 years older than me, with stunning blonde hair and blue eyes that could charm anyone within minutes. She had this magnetic personality that drew people to her like moths to a flame. Meanwhile, I was Kelly the brunette, with average looks who got straight A's and never caused trouble. Our parents worshipped Madison from the day she was born. When Madison wanted a new car at 16, she got it. When I wanted driving lessons at the same age, they told me to save up and pay for them myself. When Madison failed her college courses, they hired expensive tutors and made excuses to the professors. When I struggled with one chemistry class, they told me I needed to work harder and stop making excuses. The pattern became so predictable that I stopped expecting fairness. Madison would throw parties that got noise complaints from the neighbors, and somehow I would end up grounded for not watching over her properly. She would max out credit cards shopping, and my parents would pay them off while lecturing me about fiscal responsibility when I asked for $20 for lunch money. But the worst part was not the obvious favoritism. It was the way Madison would promise things to me and then break those promises without a second thought. She promised to take me to my senior prom as my ride, then left me stranded when her boyfriend wanted to go somewhere else. She promised to help me move into my college dorm, then went to a music festival instead. She promised to be my maid of honor someday, then announced she thought weddings were stupid and outdated. By the time I turned 21, I had learned to expect nothing from Madison, and somehow still felt disappointed every single time she let me down. When Madison met James at a charity gala 2 years ago, everything seemed to change. James was different from her usual boyfriends. He was kind, came from a good family, had a stable job as a financial advisor, and genuinely seemed to care about making Madison happy. He would bring flowers just because remembered her favorite coffee order, and even helped our parents fix things around their house on weekends. For the first time in years, I watched my sister act like a decent human being. She stopped partying until 3 in the morning. She started volunteering at the local animal shelter because James loved dogs. She even called me once a week to check in, which had never happened before in our entire relationship. Their wedding was the kind of fairy tale event that gets featured in magazines. Madison looked absolutely radiant in a designer dress that cost more than my entire college tuition. James was beaming as he said his vows, talking about how Madison made him want to be a better person. I was her maid of honor, and for the first time in my life, I felt proud to be her sister. Our parents could not stop bragging about their perfect daughter who had landed such an amazing husband. They would introduce James as their son-in-law to anyone who would listen, going on and on about his job, his family connections, and how wonderful he was to Madison. Even our extended family got caught up in the excitement. Madison had finally done something that made everyone happy. I genuinely thought my sister had grown up and changed for the better. I thought marriage had given her the stability and love she needed to become the person she was always capable of being. Looking back now, I realize I was just seeing what I wanted to see. The first signs that something was wrong started about 6 months after their wedding. Madison began staying out later, and later claiming she was having dinner with girlfriends or attending networking events for her part-time job at a boutique. But when I asked her about these events, she would give vague answers or change the subject entirely. I started noticing her laughing at her phone, constantly typing messages with a secretive smile that I had never seen before. When James would call while she was at our parents' house, she would step outside to talk to him, saying she needed privacy. But I could hear her through the window, and her tone was completely different. Cold, distant, like she was talking to a stranger instead of her husband. The most unsettling thing was how she started treating James when he came around. She would roll her eyes when he told stories, interrupt him mid-sentence, and make little comments about how boring his job was or how predictable he had become. James would just smile sadly and try to change the subject, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. Something was very wrong, but I could not put my finger on exactly what it was. The day I discovered the truth about Madison's marriage was a Tuesday afternoon in October. I had decided to surprise her with lunch from her favorite Thai restaurant because she had been complaining about feeling stressed and overwhelmed. I drove to her house around 1 in the afternoon, expecting to find her home since she did not work on Tuesdays. When I pulled into their driveway, I noticed an unfamiliar black BMW parked on the street right in front of their house. It was an expensive car with tinted windows, and something about it made me pause before getting out of my own vehicle. I sat there for a moment, trying to think of who might be visiting Madison during the middle of a weekday. That is when I saw them through the living room window. Madison was wrapped in the arms of a man I had never seen before. He was tall, dark-haired, and definitely not her husband. They were kissing passionately, and her hands were running through his hair in a way that made it clear this was not their first time together. I felt my stomach drop to the floor as I watched my sister betray the one good man who had ever loved her. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and started recording. I knew I needed evidence because Madison was a master manipulator who could talk her way out of anything. I took pictures of the car's license plate, recorded video of them together through the window, and documented everything I could see. For 20 minutes, I sat in my car watching this nightmare unfold. The man eventually left through the back door, and Madison stood at the window waving goodbye with a satisfied smile on her face. She looked happier than I had seen her in months. When I finally gathered the courage to knock on her front door, Madison answered, wearing a robe and claiming she had just gotten out of the shower. She invited me in for lunch, chatting casually about her morning, like nothing had happened. I felt sick to my stomach watching her lie so effortlessly. 3 days later, I confronted her with the evidence. I showed up at her house when I knew James was at work, and I laid everything out on her kitchen table. The photos, the videos, the timeline of her lies. I expected her to break down, apologize, or at least show some remorse for what she was doing to her husband. Instead, Madison looked at the evidence, shrugged, and said something that still gives me chills to this day. So what, Kelly? Marriage is boring. James is boring. I deserve to feel excited and alive, and if he cannot give me that, then I am going to find it somewhere else. You would not understand because you have never had anyone love you the way James loves me. I stared at her in complete shock. Madison, you are destroying him. James worships the ground you walk on, and you are cheating on him like it means nothing. She rolled her eyes and started putting the photos in a pile. James will never leave me, Kelly. He is too weak and too obsessed with me to ever walk away. And even if he found out his family would pressure him to work things out because divorce looks bad for their reputation. What about your reputation? What about our family? Madison laughed in a way that made my blood run cold. Our family will support me no matter what I do. They always have. And if you even think about telling James, I will make sure everyone knows that you are just jealous because you have never had what I have. I left her house that day feeling like I was going to throw up. My sister was not just cheating on her husband. She was enjoying it. She was proud of it. And she was confident that there would be no consequences for her actions. But she was wrong about one thing. I was not going to stay silent and watch her destroy James. I called James that evening and asked him to meet me for coffee the next day. I told him I had something important to discuss with him about Madison, and I could hear the worry in his voice when he agreed to meet me. When I showed James the evidence the next afternoon, he went completely silent for almost 10 minutes. He just stared at the photos and videos, his face growing paler and paler. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. How long has this been going on? I do not know exactly, but based on her behavior, probably several months. James put his head in his hands and started crying. This strong, successful man who had everything going for him was falling apart in front of me because my sister had ripped his heart out. I sat there feeling helpless as he processed the fact that his perfect marriage was built on lies. "Thank you for telling me," he said finally. "I know this could not have been easy for you. Madison is your sister. Madison stopped being my sister the moment she decided to hurt you like this." James took all the evidence with him and told me he needed time to figure out what to do next. I hugged him goodbye, and I could feel him shaking as he tried to hold himself together. 2 days later, my phone started ringing nonstop. Madison had told our parents everything, but of course, she had twisted the story to make herself the victim. According to her version of events, I had been spying on her and sabotaging her marriage because I was jealous of her happiness. She claimed that James was already suspicious and controlling, and that I had given him fake evidence to justify his paranoia. When my mother called me, she was absolutely furious. "How could you do this to your sister? You have destroyed her marriage with your lies and jealousy. Madison is devastated, and James is talking about divorce because of the poison you put in his head. Mom, I showed James real evidence. Madison is cheating on him. I do not care what you think you saw Kelly. Madison would never do something like that. You have always been jealous of her, and now you have gone too far. You need to call James right now and tell him you made everything up." I could not believe what I was hearing. "So you want me to lie to protect Madison's affair?" "I want you to stop destroying this family with your jealousy and lies." The phone calls from my family did not stop for the rest of the week. My father called to tell me I was a disgrace to the family name. My aunt called to lecture me about loyalty and family bonds. My grandmother called crying, begging me to apologize to Madison and fix the mess I had created. But the worst call came from Madison herself. "You have ruined my life, Kelly. James filed for divorce yesterday, and his lawyer has all your fake evidence. I hope you are happy with yourself." Madison, that evidence was not fake, and you know it. Nobody believes you, Kelly. Mom and Dad think you are a pathetic, jealous loser who cannot stand to see me happy. Even our cousins are talking about how sick and twisted you are for making up stories about your own sister. The gaslighting was so intense that I started questioning my own memories for a moment. But then I remembered James's face when he saw those photos. I remembered Madison's cold confession in her kitchen. I remembered the way she talked about James like he was disposable. I knew I had done the right thing, even if it meant my entire family was turning against me. 2 weeks later, my parents demanded that I come home for a family meeting to resolve this situation once and for all. When I walked into their living room that Sunday evening, I felt like I was walking into an ambush. Madison was sitting on the couch surrounded by our parents, our grandparents, and our aunt and uncle. She had clearly been crying, and everyone was looking at me like I was a monster who had crawled out of the sewer. "Kelly," my father said, in his most serious voice, "your sister's marriage is over because of your actions. James has moved out, and Madison is devastated. We need you to take responsibility for what you have done and make this right." How exactly am I supposed to make this right? My mother jumped in before my father could answer. "You are going to call James and tell him that you made everything up because you were angry and jealous. You are going to admit that you fabricated that evidence because you wanted to hurt Madison." I looked around the room at all these people who were supposed to love me, and I realized they were asking me to destroy my own integrity to protect Madison's lies. I am not going to lie to protect Madison's affair. That is when Madison turned on the waterworks. She started sobbing dramatically, talking about how much she loved James and how I had destroyed the only real love she had ever known. She talked about how depressed she had been since James left and how she did not know if she could go on living without him. "Madison," I said quietly, "you were cheating on James with another man. I saw you with my own eyes." "You saw nothing," Madison screamed. "You are making everything up because you hate me. You have always hated me because I am prettier and more successful than you." My grandmother started crying and begging me to just apologize and make peace with Madison. My aunt started lecturing me about family loyalty. My parents started threatening to cut me out of the family entirely if I did not fix the situation. But the moment that changed everything was when my mother looked me straight in the eye and said something I will never forget. "I wish I only had one daughter. At least then I would not have to deal with one of them trying to destroy the other one out of pure jealousy." Something snapped inside me when she said that. After 24 years of being the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who never caused problems or asked for too much, my own mother was telling me she wished I had never been born. I stood up slowly and looked around the room at all their faces. "You know what? You can have your precious Madison. You can have her lies, her manipulation, and her complete lack of conscience. But you cannot have me." I walked upstairs to my childhood bedroom and started packing everything that mattered to me. My books, my photographs, my college diploma, the jewelry my grandmother had given me before she turned against me. I could hear them downstairs talking about how I was having a tantrum and would be back in a few days begging for forgiveness. They were wrong. I loaded everything into my car and drove away from that house without looking back. I drove for 6 hours straight until I reached the city where I had gone to college, and I rented a small studio apartment with the money I had been saving for a car down payment. For the first time in my entire life, I was completely on my own. The first few months were harder than I expected. I found a job at a marketing company, but the pay was not great, and I had to live on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches for weeks at a time. I missed having family around during holidays, and there were nights when I cried myself to sleep, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. But slowly, things started getting better. My co-workers were kind and funny, and they invited me to join them for happy hours and weekend activities. I made friends who did not know anything about my family drama, and they liked me for who I was rather than comparing me to Madison all the time. I started taking art classes on weekends, something I had always wanted to do, but never had time for when I was busy managing family crises. I learned how to cook real meals for myself, and I decorated my apartment with things that made me happy rather than things that would impress other people. Most importantly, I learned what it felt like to make decisions based on what was right rather than what would keep the peace. James and I stayed in touch through text messages. He thanked me over and over for telling him the truth, even though it had been painful to hear. He told me that Madison had tried to convince him that I was lying, but the evidence was too clear to ignore. The divorce was finalized within 6 months, and James said he felt like he had been freed from prison. "You saved my life, Kelly," he told me during one phone call. I was starting to think I was going crazy because Madison would deny things I knew were true. Having proof that I was not losing my mind was the greatest gift anyone has ever given me. Hearing that made all the family drama worth it. For 6 months, my family left me alone. No phone calls, no text messages, no attempts to contact me at all. I assumed they had written me off completely, and honestly, I was fine with that. I was building a new life with people who respected me and treated me like I mattered. Then Madison called. It was a Saturday morning, and I was having coffee on my tiny balcony when my phone rang. When I saw her name on the screen, my first instinct was to send it to voicemail. But something made me answer. "What do you want, Madison?" "Kelly, I need you to come home. I am not doing well. I have been depressed since James left, and I think I need help. Mom and Dad are worried about me." "Then get professional help. Go see a therapist." "I need my family, Kelly. I need my sister. I know we had a fight, but we are blood." Where was that sister loyalty then? I could hear Madison starting to cry, but it sounded fake and calculated like everything else about her. "I am hanging up now, Madison. Do not call me again unless you are ready to take responsibility for your own actions and apologize for the way you treated me." I ended the call and immediately blocked her number. That was 8 months ago, and my life has never been better. Madison did not kill herself, of course. According to mutual friends, she is doing just fine. She has a new boyfriend who apparently does not mind that she is a cheater, and she has moved back in with our parents to save money. She tells people that I abandoned the family during her darkest time, but I do not care what story she tells anymore. My parents have called a few times demanding that I come home and apologize to Madison. They say I was cruel to someone who was crying out for help. They say real family members do not abandon each other like I abandoned Madison. But I know the difference between someone who needs help and someone who is trying to manipulate me into coming back to a toxic situation. James got remarried last month to a wonderful woman who treats him the way he deserves to be treated. He sent me a photo from their wedding, and he looks genuinely happy for the first time since I have known him. He wrote me a long letter, thanking me again for giving him the courage to leave Madison and find real love. As for me, I got promoted at work, and I am dating someone who thinks I am amazing exactly as I am. I have a group of friends who would never ask me to lie or sacrifice my integrity to protect their bad behavior. I volunteer at an animal shelter on weekends, and I am taking pottery classes because I want to learn something new. Most importantly, I learned that walking away from toxic people is not giving up. It is choosing yourself. It is refusing to let other people's dysfunction define your worth. It is understanding that some relationships cost more than they give, even when those relationships are with family members. I used to think that family meant everything, that blood was thicker than water, that you should forgive people no matter what they do to you. Now I understand that family is not about DNA. Family is about love, respect, and support. Real family members do not ask you to compromise your values to protect their lies. The people who love me now love me because of who I am, not because they are obligated to love me. They celebrate my successes instead of undermining them. They respect my boundaries instead of trampling all over them. They would never ask me to choose between my integrity and their approval. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who hurt you most. And sometimes walking away is not giving up. It is finally choosing yourself. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members? What was the moment when you realized you had to choose yourself over keeping the peace? Like this video if my story resonated with you, and subscribe for more real stories about finding the courage to stand up for yourself. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that they are not alone in dealing with family drama. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that you deserve relationships that lift you up instead of tearing you down. Until next time, keep choosing yourself.